Hey guys, Funkymusic here once again. Kind of want to do an update on the pay to win video that I did years ago. For one, because the quality of this is going to be a lot better versus that old video. Um, I think I had the fan blowing when I was recording that one. It was before I really started doing a little bit more YouTube stuff and was just posting random thoughts on my YouTube channel. So, anyways, why is pay to win bullshit and why it's a myth that's created by either players who are jealous, bad players. What exactly is it that people always say pay to win, pay to win, pay to win? Now, a lot of people will point to pay to win as, oh, you can buy your gear, uh, when you buy your gear, that's you winning. It's easier for you to get into raids and yada yada yada. And while that is true, it is easier for you to get into raids. I'm not denying that whatsoever. It's because the concept of using gear score to put together a raid is fundamentally flawed. Anyone who does that, I literally laugh at them. I refuse. If you guys watch any stream I used to do, or if you've been a raid leader and you've seen me and I've linked any achievement for what you're asking and refuse to give you my gear score, yeah, I always refuse to give gear score out. Now, do I run the add-on? Yes, I run the add-on. It is kind of useful in the sense that, look, if you're doing like an ICC and you got somebody in there who's like 4K geared, obviously they're not going to do very well on damage. You need to be, I'd say 5.5 plus to really do some decent damage. I'd let people in that, or 5K, even lower, depending on if you're doing a 10-man or 25-man. But obviously, it does help in those regards. However, I think people put a little bit too much emphasis on it. They want too much gear score for what the raid requires, and that you could look at talk as a good example. People want gear that's way outside of talk levels. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But gear score is another video I've done before, and that's not really what I'm trying to get into. But anyways, pay to win. So paying for your gear, people say, well, that's you winning, Funky. That's when you pay for that gear, that's you winning. I refuse to believe that when you pay for gear, you've won. What have you won? So you're never going to play the game again? You've won once you buy the gear? No, you have to be able to perform with that gear. Now, people will say, well, Shadowmourne this, Shadowmourne is not... yes. Is it a DPS advantage? Yes. Is it that big of an advantage? No, it's not that huge of an advantage as everyone likes to make it. People blow it way out of proportion as far as what it can do. So yeah, people who buy it, okay, but you still have to know how to use it. You still have to. It doesn't teach. Paying for your gear does not teach you how to gem, enchant, spec, glyph. It teaches you none of those things. And constantly, I see people, tons of players. The other night, a Resto Druid, 6.2k gear score, right? Light of Dawn title, right? So he's done it. Okay, the guy's spec was like 12.059 or some goofy thing, and then you go to look at his Resto spec, and he's got stuff everywhere. Like, ridiculous stuff. 1 of 3 in Nature's Grace, 3 of 3 in Natural Perfection, 1 of 3 in Living Seed, 2 of 5 in Tranquil Spirit. It's just weird, like these weird spec. Like, just because you have that gear, just because you paid for it, and he had a Valinar and whatnot, just because you do all that stuff does not mean you know how to play that class at all whatsoever. And I've seen this ton, and I've mentioned it, I've talked about it so many times. I feel like I've kind of beaten it to death, but it really shows. You could pay for all the gear you want. If you don't know what you're doing with it, it means nothing. How are you winning anything? I refuse to believe that people are winning anything when they pay for their gear and they reach BIS. Just because you have a BIS player, and I've seen tons of BIS players, and I'll reference the class that I play most, Resto Druid, obviously. I've seen tons of Resto Druids who are BIS, who cast regrowth a ton of times, or are glyphed with just stupid glyphs, like glyph of regrowth, and they've got glyph of nourish, and it's like, what are you doing? you know, uh, that run both those glyphs. I'm not saying that, running Glyph of Nourish is bad, but they run like those glyphs all together, and then they'll run like some goofy glyph. Like I've seen them with I've seen everything. Glyph of Barkskin. Hell, I've seen healers who run Resilience in PvE. It just makes no sense. Like, why are you going to be taking damage? Well, just in case, I can help with the raid, I could take damage. No, it's not your job. You're a healer. Like you're trying to min-max your stats. So pay to win, while people want to have this thing that, you could pay for gear, on Ice Crown, and that's, you're winning. It's too easy, all this stuff. If you want more of a challenge and you want custom content, by all means, play Ice Crown. Not Ice Crown, excuse me, Lordaeron. If you want a more retail-like experience with a system that you can pay for your gear or not, you do not have to pay. There's Ice Crown. But again, the whole theory behind it, paying to win, especially in a game like this, in an MMO where there's so many different aspects to it. It's not like I always reference Hearthstone too when I talk about this. It's not like Hearthstone where you can look up what's the best deck, and kind of just play that deck and be really, really good, with just playing those decks, because it's not that hard to play. There's only so many cards that you get. Now, granted, there is a higher skill level, but there's more things that go in. There's more different aspects that in a MMO like this that really make paying to win, or paying for your gear rather, a little bit harder to do, because it doesn't teach you how to gem spec, enchant, or even use the healing abilities of that class. It doesn't teach you tactics. I think people somewhere along the line have lost track of that and don't really understand what I'm talking about. They just ignore it. Well, they get an achievement, or they can buy characters. Now, buying characters is a totally different thing, right? Because then you could say, well, Funky, they've got the achievement, they've got the character, they've got everything that's BIS. Guys, I'm telling you, the amount of people that actually buy a full BIS tune, or even a tune with Shadowmourne on it, or something like that, or a Valinar, or even a character that doesn't run those two, it costs a lot of coins. There's not people just going out and doing it all the time. Like, we're not all millionaires. Most people who play this game are in their, are teenagers or younger, or in their early 20s. That's the majority of people who play this game. It's not people who are billionaires or millionaires or have tons of money or even have a real job playing this game. It's mostly people just like younger generation people playing this game nowadays, at least in the private server community. So while people think that you can just go out and buy all these tunes with all this gear, that is true, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's more of a rarity than the regular. Okay, so again, paying to win. The big thing I have with it is it does not mean that you win instantly when you pay and buy the gear, or buy a character that's best in slot, or even have the achievement anymore. I really wish Warmane would get rid of that part of buying and trading characters. I think it's really kind of pointless, but that's my opinion. Anyways, it doesn't teach you how to play the character whatsoever. It doesn't teach you tactics. Doesn't teach you glyphs. Doesn't teach you none of that stuff. So if I get to a raid, and I've been in raids tons of times, many over the 8 years playing here, where I know what the specs generally are for classes, and I know what they should be roundabout pulling for their class. Guys, I couldn't even begin to count the number of people I've seen who are BIS, near BIS, running all the correct specs, running everything, but even when they get into ICC, they don't have a clue what spells they should be using, or how to DPS, or any raid awareness whatsoever. So if that's paying to win and it's for the gear, then again, what are you really winning? Because if you don't know how to use or play the class, you don't know what you're doing, what's the point? And I think people on Warmane especially get away from that. The gear is what's making them win. That's the point of winning. I don't think so. I don't view it as that. Just because you pay for some gear doesn't give you a title, doesn't teach you anything to do in the game. You buy a character, even so, that still doesn't teach you any tactics or how to do anything in the game. So, pay to win is a myth. I don't know why people keep using pay to win to explain why they're bad at the game. I really don't. This game has been out for 10 years. 10 years. Now, there's certain things in the game that like item that I'm not very well versed in, like Warrior, although I did play Warrior for all of Vanilla and all of TBC, so I know Warrior pretty well. And I dabbled around with it a little bit in Wrath and Retail, but I refuse to play Warrior anymore. Rogue, never got into playing. So there's classes and things I don't know a whole lot about, but having played here long enough, I know where, you know, things should be at and stuff like that, as far as, you know, where the numbers are with DPS and stuff. But to get back to the point, I just don't see it. I hear people talking about it all the time. You paid for this gear. How many times I've been whispered, "Oh, nice title. Did you buy that?" Like, no, dude. Like, that's not how I do things. Yeah, it's dumb. Like, oh, you bought that mount? No, every mount that I've got, I've achieved. I think except for Spectral Tiger is the only one that I haven't gone and farmed for. You know, I farmed for everything else. I think it's more fun farming for mounts anyways. I find that actually enjoyable, to go to the old places or take a group in and try to farm for a certain mount, you know, stuff like that. But, yeah, pay to win is a myth. It's just brought up by people who are angry because they don't have the money or the time or the skill to get there and to learn how to play this game. And it's, like I said, again, it's sad because this game is so old that there's really no excuse for people not knowing how to play at this point in time in the game. There's really not. If you're playing a main character, it's different if it's an alt and you're still learning it. I get that. I totally understand that. I've been there, done that here on Warmane. Obviously, there's classes I got to play here on Warmane that I didn't get to play in Retail because simply we just ran out of time. But yeah, by this point, if you're playing a main character and you don't know what you're doing, then there's no excuse for it, guys. Really, there's not. And yeah, again, gear score is a cancer, and pay to win is just some fallacy that people like to put out there, and it's really annoying. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Pay to win, does it exist on Warmane? What do you guys think about it? Is it good, bad? Does it affect your gameplay at all? I know a lot of people always say, well, Funky, there's no fun coming up against warriors and BGs. Well, that's why I love being a druid. I can just run away, go cheetah, and just dash away from them. Like, I don't know. I think I've got a couple of videos, or I had a couple of videos when I was doing PvP way back in the day on Warmane, of me running into, I think it was like 2 or 3 Shadowmourne warriors. They all pop Blade Storm and coming at me and just cheetah, run away. Now what are you going to do? You used up your Blade Storms trying to knock me out. Like, there's ways around it. There really is. And Shadowmourn's not all end all things. I mean, there's plenty of Shadow Cleave teams, Spell Cleave teams out there that do really, really well against Shadowmourne players. So to act like, you know, it's the most OP thing of all time, you know, just because warriors are usually the top DPS class, it's just blown out of proportion. Okay, it does not mean that it should diminish any caster class from playing the game. It really doesn't. But anyways, before I go on a whole other soliloquy about random shit, I could talk all day. I'm going to end this video. Let me know what you guys think. Is pay to win a thing? Has it affected you? What's your questions, comments on it? And please leave them down below and let me know.